It's possible that the Indiana Fever just committed the worst error in WNBA history. One that might cost them millions of dollars. No one is discussing the much more explosive things going on behind the scenes. Imagine this. At last, your team acquires a generational rookie. She breaks ratings records overnight, sells out arenas that have been empty for years, and all of a sudden your team is important once more. What is the answer, then? You repeatedly bent her, and for some reason, no one is questioning why. This portion will astound you, so let's start with the money. This year, Caitlin Clark is expected to earn $11 million. However, her $78,000 WNBA pay accounts for less than 1% of that. She earns more money from one Instagram post than she does from having the fever for a whole month. To sign her, Nike spent $28 million over the course of 8 years. Gatorade's all in. She is treated like royalty by State Farm. She even received a distinctive basketball phrase from Wilson. While the Fever couldn't even keep her healthy for more than 3 games in a row, every company you can think of is queued up with open wallets. In relation to health, isn't it peculiar? In college, Caitlin never missed a game. She played despite pain and dominated every night for 4 years in a row at Iowa. However, she has been sidelined frequently in the professionals due to groin issues that appear to be unexpected and unexplainable. The effect is evident, whether it's due to bad luck or something more significant going on behind the scenes. After returning, she shot just 4 out of 12 during a 6-game run in which her overall shooting percentage was below 30% and her 3-point shooting percentage was below 14%. But this is the bit that no one is talking about. She continues to average more than 9 assists per game even amid that slump. With one arm tied behind her back, she is practically pulling this team ahead. More bench time is the prize. As if the drama on the court wasn't enough, things became even more sinister off the court. A 55-year-old stalker who harassed Caitlin, wrote hundreds of unsettling messages, and even traveled to Indianapolis while pretending to be in a relationship was recently given a prison sentence. She had to alter her public appearances in order to feel safe because things had gotten so nasty. Here's the crazy thing, though. Even he appeared to recognize her worth more than the Fever's own control. The cost of tickets increases dramatically when Caitlin is performing. $200 in the secondary market. Overnight, they fall by 40% when she's not around. It's not a dip. That is a freefall in terms of money. Tickets for the All-Star Game, which was held in her arena, dropped from $121 to $72 as soon as she said she couldn't play. The front office in Indiana is acting as though they are blind to the fact that real money is leaving the company. And it gets worse just when you believe it can't get much worse. The coach coming in to make everything right is Stephanie White. However, it appears that she is more concerned about humiliating Caitlin than unleashing her game. The viral moment from last week said it all. During a timeout, White told Caitlin to get out of the coach's chair in front of everyone. The message was really obvious. Rookie, know your place. Avoid becoming overly at ease. This team is run by us, not by you. White continues to preach about long-term wellness and the broader picture. Translation, the size of you has scared us. Really, how else could you oversee a 23-year-old in top physical condition? When she gets attractive, why would you stop her from playing games? Why make her alter the precise type of play that buys jerseys and fills arenas? It seems to be a continual reminder. They have the power, even though you are the star. Here's the worst part, though. Caitlin is subtly constructing something far larger as Indiana engages in small-scale power struggles. An empire that doesn't even require them. She is the face of women's basketball in addition to being well-liked. She received more votes than any other player in the league, more than 1.2 million, to be named All-Star captain. Payrolls for entire teams are dwarfed by her endorsements. She could buy and sell half of the WNBA tomorrow if she so desired. Nevertheless, the Fever acts as though allowing her to sit on the bench is a favor. This is where things get crazy, and I have insider information. When Caitlin becomes a free agency in 2027, some teams are already clearing cap space. The New York Liberty is prepared to offer her whatever marketing agreement Manhattan can come up with in addition to a maximum contract. Aces in Las Vegas. They would definitely rename a casino in her honor and lay up the red carpet. International teams are circling 2 7-figure contracts in Europe. Crazy proposals from China that can possibly involve club ownership. Not to mention that Ice Cube previously attempted to steal her with a $5 million Big 3 bid. She has more choices than a buffet in Vegas. And the Fever is acting as like she ought to be appreciative of the leftovers from the table. The league's common joke. Indiana switched from using low-cost aircraft that required you to pay for water to using luxury jets overnight. Due to a single player. Additionally, they are engaging in power struggles that make reality TV seem subdued rather than defending her. It's similar like complaining about taxes after winning the lotto. Are you curious about how awful things have gotten? While Caitlyn receives criticism for taking one disputed 3, players who go 2 for 14 are commended for maintaining their confidence. Veterans with a permanent green light are those who were unable to reach the ocean from the beach. However, the greatest shooter in team history is advised to take a seat and exercise patience. Even the referees are shaking their heads at the blatant double standard. Here is the statistic that ought to infuriate every fan. Only 9% of league earnings go to WNBA players. In contrast, NBA players receive 50%. What happens when Caitlyn shows up and increases attendance by 40% and retail sales by 500%? They're making every effort to drive her away. The most amusing aspect is that Fever management genuinely believes they have power in this situation. They believe that Caitlyn is more in need of them than of them. They would be completely mistaken if they believed that she needed them more than they needed her. At just 23 years old, Caitlyn Clark already has a net worth of around $5 million. Long after she puts up her jersey, her endorsements will guarantee her future. And if she founded a Penguin basketball league, her devoted fan base would follow her to Antarctica. And this is the statistic that ought to make every Indianapolis boss shudder. 86% of supporters responded negatively when asked if they would still support the Fever if Caitlyn departed. That goes beyond just loyalty. That is an obsession. That's not a fan base. That is an army on the move. Because of the name on the front, these individuals did not purchase Fever shirts. The name on the back was the reason they purchased them. If you believe I'm overstating the strain she is under, consider what transpired in Connecticut during the playoffs. They said that Jonah Carrington struck Caitlyn in the eye by accident. Carrington became defensive when reporters questioned him about it, and the Suns' leadership attempted to scare the media into dropping it. Caitlyn experiences that degree of jealousy every single night. The worst part is that not even her own squad will defend her. The figures are accurate. Over 1 million people watch games while Caitlyn is on the court. They find it difficult to reach 200,000 without her. She was essentially the focal point of ESPN's entire WNBA coverage, and as soon as she leaves the court, social media participation declines by 70%. She serves as the league's marketing department in addition to being a player. The buzz instantly dies without her. And with the Fever, things are now frightening. There are rumors circulating among those close to Caitlyn that she is already doubting her prospects in Indianapolis. The odd coaching choices, persistent injuries, and management's lack of support are all mounting. She moved from being the league's most vulnerable superstar to Iron Woman in college, never missing a game. Everyone is beginning to question what's actually happening in this situation. The most absurd aspect is that tomorrow the Fever might resolve this. Anyone who doesn't know what they have should be fired. Bring in coaches who will allow Caitlyn to be herself. Instead of pushing her into an antiquated, ineffective structure, center the entire team on her. Give her the franchise's keys, then watch the money come in. However, in Indianapolis, ego is more important than money, therefore they won't. The story is told by the numbers. Cities that attract generational talent can become cautionary tales or establish empires. The Fever are currently moving quickly in the direction of that second route. They are on the verge of being the squad that lost Caitlyn Clark. The team that mishandled the greatest player in women's basketball history. Whispers are coming to me. And keep in mind that you originally heard it here. Options are already being investigated by Caitlyn's camp. They're preparing the foundation, establishing connections in other markets, testing foreign waters, and ensuring that she has a landing location that genuinely values her when the time comes, not tomorrow or next season. The irony is almost poetry. The Indiana Fever played in front of empty chairs and begged for attention for years. Then Caitlyn Clark unexpectedly tumbles into their lap. A gift from the gods of basketball. A once-in-a-generation celebrity who had the power to alter everything. I promise that Caitlyn Clark won't be sporting a Fever shirt in 2 years. She will be performing for people who genuinely want her to succeed while earning 3 times as much as Indiana could ever hope to, in New York, Vegas, and possibly even abroad. When that occurs, the Fever will immediately return to being a footnote in basketball history, to half-empty venues, and to irrelevance. This is the most depressing part. The entire catastrophe could have been avoided. They only needed to refrain from screwing it up. Let Caitlyn be amazing, please. Checks should be cashed. Construct the franchise around her. Rather, they have published a masterclass on how to ruin a fantastic chance. For decades to come, business schools will examine this type of collapse. The Fever will soon discover what happens when an athlete worth $100 million is treated like a minimum salary worker. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the Indiana Fever, so when the circus departs town and takes every ticket buyer with it, they will finally understand what they had and what they lost. She didn't. But they needed her for a single, brilliant moment. And they shoved her out the door rather than accepting it. Do you believe that this is the biggest error in WNBA history? Click like. Are you curious about Caitlyn's next destination? Sign up. This is only the beginning of the story. And leave a remark. When Caitlyn eventually leaves Indianapolis, where should she go?